This is Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, a weekly podcast for game show enthusiasts. Episode number 15, No Foolin, recorded March 17th, 2016. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode and installment of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. My name is Torgo. Thanks for joining me. And let's see who my co-hosts are this week.
Hi, I'm Jordan, aka Unique Perspective, and despite peer pressure, I am not doing a St. Patrick's Day theme.
Hello, I'm Jason, aka JJMan920, and hopefully on this St. Patrick's Day, I'll be drunk enough that I'll be on this episode longer than 10 minutes.
And I'm Nick, and because it's St. Patrick's Day, I'm installing my Raspberry Pi.
I said I refuse to do a St. Patrick's Day theme. Thanks, guys.
Anyway, we have what I think might be an exclusive topic for Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, just like we did with the Brandy lawsuit last time, because no one else was really talking about it. So we'll start out with this. If you've seen the description, you know what we're going to be talking about, and that is the April Fool's Day episode of The Price is Right. We know what the theme is, and it hasn't been leaked anywhere. First off, we obviously need to give credit where credit is due. Tristan, also known as One Bid Tris, was actually at the taping of the April Fool's Day show. One day he'll join us.
He'll join us one day.
He's definitely sat in on an episode before and just not said anything, which is, when we have Nick on the call, that's really saying something. Just a little. So one day he'll join us. I wish he was able to join us today, but unfortunately he could not. So, spoiler warning, if you are one person who is offended by knowing things in advance, this is not the episode for you. Here's what the April Fool's Day theme is for The Price is Right in 2016.
And hopefully Torgo will post a timestamp to when we're done talking about this in the description so people can skip ahead.
Yeah, I'll try to do that. So, timestamp, here. Go here. 3, 2, 1. The theme for April Fool's Day 2016 is very similar to what Wheel of Fortune did a little while back, and the Drew Carey show did it as well, where they're going to have a number of irregularities in a regular episode. Titles of things are going to be wrong, some descriptions maybe. We're not entirely sure of just how far in depth they're going to go with this, but it's going to be you at home are going to try and see all the quote-unquote mistakes, errors, things like that. And this is where the interesting part comes in. The Price is Right made it a contest where if you write down as many of the errors as you can find, presumably mail it in or email, Facebook, Twitter, something along those lines. And if you're one of the people that found all of them, they're going to have, I believe, a drawing, and the winner gets a trip to Costa Rica. I hope I got all that information correct. So it's like a $6,000 prize for a home viewer, which is pretty high. So I guess I'll start the discussion by posing the question, do you think this is an interesting idea compared to what they've done in years past with Bob Barker appearing for a first segment, the 10,000th special where nothing really happened, or just having, bogus showcases like they did when Drew first started having Kathy Kinney show up as Mimi? Or do you feel that this is a little on the unoriginal side, considering shows like Wheel of Fortune and the Drew Carey Show have done it prior?
Here's my problem with this theme. Because the very idea is centered on mistakes, we've seen Price is Right do this at least twice in a somewhat lesser form with, as you said, the 10,000 something. And I also believe in 2009, they basically had little mistakes here and there, like the table spinning and various little things. So they've made simply mistakes the theme before. Sure, the at-home prize is a nice touch, and the general idea of incorporating the audience at home is a little bit different, but because the theme is very repetitive, I think, to me, it kind of falls in the unoriginal camp.
The thing is that the whole idea of April Fool's Day is unoriginal at this point. I don't know the history of April Fool's Day, but it's been around for a very long time, perhaps at least, 80, 90 years. It's hard to say what else can you come up to do original that hasn't already been done. So, like in real life, somebody will do a pregnancy prank, or somebody will perhaps on the morbid side do a death hoax. But it's like, we've seen this before. And so the same thing goes for game shows. We've seen host swaps and surprise appearances, and things go wrong on April Fool's Day episodes of game shows as far back as the 1970s. So it's just a thing where April Fool's Day isn't an original kind of holiday. So I don't mind this. I think it's a fun spin to at least incorporate the audience into the fun.
I'm inclined to agree as well. I think the show painted itself into a corner by having Bob Barker host a segment last year, because they did a very good job of hiding it. The only reason we quote-unquote super fans knew that it was happening is because an insider on one of the Price is Right forums, who goes by Clock Game John, revealed that information on the board because he heard from... Was Roger the one that told him that was happening?
It probably was Roger, but it might have been someone who still works on the show that John knew.
It was an inside source, and that's how we knew about it. And they have kept this under wraps too, but I feel like normally the April Fool's Day theme spoils. Bob Barker appearing last year was the first time where it really didn't, and they did a good job of keeping it under wraps, which is really hard to do in the social media age of today. So I feel like people are thinking, well, how are they going to top that? I don't think they're trying to top Bob Barker's showing last year. I think they're just going in a completely different direction. And I like the fact that they're opening it up to the home audience, and they have an opportunity to win the trip. But I don't think that... I think someone's going to complain. I think there's going to be people online that are like, this is stupid, because last year you were able to get Bob Barker. I think some people wouldn't be satisfied unless this year they managed to truck out the casket of Bill Cullen through door 2, or get Dennis James's or somebody out there that isn't Bob
Tom
Barker.
Kennedy's still alive, so
yeah, and I'm sure Doug Davidson is around too. But they wouldn't be satisfied unless they go even more obscure and something that only a handful of people watching the show would appreciate. And I do know that The Price is Right loves paying tribute to its past, and they did that with Decades Week. So I feel like they're like, look, we did this already. So now we're going to do something entirely different, and we're going to make it a prize for the home audience. So I like it. I hope that everyone else likes it as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if some people didn't.
I mean, I don't think I'm necessarily going to hate it. I just find it a little bit unoriginal, because I feel like, as we were talking about, there's only so much you can do with April Fools. While that is true, I feel like you don't have to make 3 out of the 7 or 8 specials mistake themed. I think there are other ways you can do it.
It's a classic April Fool's Day theme, though.
I mean, well, I understand what Jordan's saying, but I mean, at the same time, you also got to take into account people aren't that, they don't remember much often. And so the regular folk out there who will probably participate in this, they'll probably be like, oh, seems so special and different, not remembering that they've done this before.
Because you have to remember, especially with game shows and shows like The Price is Right, where, unlike Millionaire, they don't have contestant carryover or anything like that. Every episode of The Price is Right takes place in a vacuum. So they assume that you've seen absolutely nothing before, and they kind of assume that you're never going to see it again. So there's no continuity. I mean, occasionally you'll have George mention, the treadmill incident or Manuela and 5 price tags and the cutesy little stuff that, received a huge amount of attention in the news and social media and whatnot. But for the most part, you don't need to see any episode of The Price is Right before the one you're watching in order to get any grasp of what's going on.
And just to blow it up, we're talking about April Fool's Day specials. Well, think about Wheel of Fortune. They wait about, 6, 7, 8, 9 years to reuse a puzzle. Wheel of Fortune, shocker, everybody listening, Wheel of Fortune reuses puzzles because there's only so many puzzles you can make over the course of, they're on 41 years of history now.
30-some, depending on who you ask.
Yes, I know. And so there's only so many puzzles you can use. Eventually, they'll reuse the puzzle after a while because they assume, again, people have not, watched previous shows. The show's not rerunning anywhere right now. So I'm sure that's the way The Price is Right looks at this.
There's people out there who feel like it's their duty to archive binge every episode of the show. There's no way to do it, especially with long runners like that. And with game shows, like I said, everything is in a vacuum. So it's like there's no way to... The show can't expect anybody to remember a scant show from like 9 years ago because the average person wouldn't have that information there. Yes, there's some super fans who record the show, write down every puzzle, every pricing game, every setup, every prize, what have you. So yeah, for us and probably a lot of people listening to this podcast, you may see it as a little disappointing, but you have to remember that we like these shows and care more about the nuances within far more than the vast majority of people watching it.
Now, here's a question. When they did the home viewer showcase, a lot of us super fans thought that one of us might win, and none of us did. So, do you think any of us super fans will have a good shot at winning this April Fool's Day contest?
In theory, I have a feeling that no. I don't think they're going to do that at all.
I mean, will Price know who is a quote-unquote super fan? And I'm sure there are...
I don't think so.
And there are also other super fans besides people in our little bubble.
Circle, yes.
I absolutely agree with that, but I think it's just a matter of probability. I don't think they're going to make it very difficult, because I think they want people at home to catch all the mistakes, because it gives them a good adrenaline boost. They're like, hey, yeah, I can do this. I have an opportunity to win, because I can recognize all these things. People who watch the show every day like us are probably going to, fly through all these mistakes, have our lists going on our notepad, documents, or pieces of paper and all that. We're going to have no problem. So a lot of people are going to find everything. So I don't think they're going to actively avoid having a super fan win so much as I think it's just going to be sheer numbers. There's going to be so many people that have all of them right.
They're going to probably randomly pick from that.
And the super fans, there's not as many of us as people think that there are. There really aren't. It doesn't make us better or more elite. It's just online communities for these kinds of things are dying just because of how social media works. The chat room is dying. The whole concept of a bulletin board is dying. So people who follow those aren't as plentiful as they were maybe 10 years ago. Everyone has access to the internet, but that doesn't mean everybody has that much of an interest in going that deep into the recesses of the internet, following fan sites and things like that. So most people who are going to get all these right, if they make it as easy as I think they're going to do, are going to be just, your average schmuck. Maybe 95% of the people who submit this are going to get them all right, and are not even going to know of any of the fan sites. So, like I said, I think it's more probability that it's not going to be a high-profile fan of the show, which is a disgusting phrase, that's going to win this prize. It's going to be an average person, and I think that it would be better that way. I think it would look better for the show, and I think the show kind of wants to give it to an average person as well.
I mean, as long as it's like an enthusiastic person, whether they've seen the show 100 times or once, it doesn't really matter to me who wins.
And I mean, they might not be able to know exactly who's a super fan. I mean, this is an actual contest. You're going to have to submit your actual name and stuff like that. And for folks who don't use their actual name as a handle on a forum or website, they're not going to know who a super fan is and who isn't until that person wins. So they have an equal chance, but I agree with you that it might be more likely that a regular person wins.
That's true, and I hope that that's the case. But leave a comment. Do you like the idea for April Fool's Day? How easy do you think it's going to be finding everything? And now, I was able to end it at, I think, roughly the 15-minute mark. So now we will continue on to the next topic. That is the last we're going to talk of the April Fool's Day topic, and we're going to move on to the nighttime specials. We have a date and a time for the nighttime specials. Interestingly, they are all airing the same week. Monday, May 23rd, Tuesday, May 24th, and Wednesday, May 25th. All three shows, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Normally, when they've had nighttime specials in the past, like, your $1 Million Spectacular, your salutes to the armed forces, they've had them like one a week, stuff like that, because it was the writer's strike time, so they just kind of threw them in sporadically. Having all three of these in the same week means that we're going to have 8 episodes in 1 week of The Price is Right. Now, that number is not unprecedented. Back 5 seasons ago in season 39, the first 2 weeks of the season, we had your first run episodes at 11 o'clock. I'm Eastern Standard Time, so that's where it is, 11 o'clock for me. And then at like 2 or 3 o'clock, we had brand new episodes as well. They had 2 new episodes per day. So the fact that we're having a lot of episodes in a week isn't the problem. I think it's strange that if they're trying to hype these up as much as they are, to have all 3 of the primetime specials in the same week, it kind of makes it sound like that they're just trying to get them over and done with quickly.
Well, I mean, you also have to consider that this is right around May sweeps time, and this is going to be a time where people will be wanting to watch prime time. But that isn't even necessarily my issue. My issue is that if you're tying these specials to the reality shows themselves, wouldn't you want to say time the Survivor special to around the Survivor finale? The Big Brother around the time that Big Brother starts or ends, and same with Amazing Race. It just seems like that they're just sort of splotting them on the calendar without really any recognition of the theme.
Well, I think what they're trying to do here, and this is why I didn't have a problem with how they did it, is they want to build this as a big 3-night event. By the time they air these, which will be the end of May, close to the end of May 23rd to the 25th, the regular television season will be over. There will be no more regular episodes of your Big Bang Theories and your NCISs. There will be no more Dancing with the Stars, no more The Voice. However, I feel that people aren't in the summer swing of things at that point. Like, when you get to June, July, on Monday and Tuesday nights, you might stay home, but you might also go out, go to a baseball game or something. I think people are going to probably still be sticking around at home in late May, trying to figure out what to watch on television. And here they have something special to watch at 8 o'clock in May while they'll still be there. And with the way that they can promote it as a big 3-night event and say, okay, this is a Survivor special, tune in tomorrow night for Amazing Race, and then tune in to the next night for the Big Brother special, I think it's a good idea.
Why bring in the reality shows? Wouldn't just a 3-night Price is Right event carry enough weight, especially if considering, I think the primetime specials that Price has done in the past have done pretty well. So I guess why throw in the reality shows? Why not just make it like a few $1 million spectaculars?
Perhaps CBS and perhaps the show itself isn't sure how to go about them. It's been, what is this, 2016? So we're going on about 8 years since the previous specials. Nobody on the current executive producer, Mike Richards, on the show has never done $1 million spectacular. And CBS, again, they haven't run a show in primetime in 8 years. And so perhaps they aren't sure how this will do. This is like testing new waters. And so they want to give them as much help as they could possibly get. And by using their 3 stalwart reality shows, it'll hopefully give these primetime specials a little extra bump in who's watching.
But is the reality show enough of a bump? I mean, sure, these are pretty popular with CBS, but I feel like reality shows are kind of dying as a genre. And if you're looking for these as a bump, aren't there better ways, like incorporating actual celebrities as opposed to realities in the minds of people who watch the shows?
Well, I think this was just something that was easy for them to do. I mean, I don't know exactly, how much celebrity these former players are going to be, but I guarantee you that they're probably, they might give them, I don't even know if they're going to give them money for themselves or for a charity they're playing for, but perhaps they don't have to pay out as much to these people as they would to actual celebrities because these people are just former reality show contestants. And this is what I think is so important about these specials. I think with these specials, if they do well, then that can open the door to having a lot of specials, because I feel that people got tired of all the gimmicks and all the specials that we've had over the last 6 seasons, the celebrity special, the kids special, grandparents, Mother's Day, and all of that. Well, if this does well, then maybe they'll start to migrate some of these specials in the prime time, because I felt that the whole reason they did a lot of these specials in the first place was because they didn't have an opportunity to do them in prime time.
That's a good point. The question I have, and I'm sure a lot of people are assuming that the prize values are going to go up. I haven't seen anything regarding them having like $1 million spectacular budgets or anything like that. Do you think that they would just have a regularly budgeted show just airing in nighttime.
Someone made a good point on a forum somewhere that it's unconceivable, perhaps unfathomable, that they would go this far as to now schedule these episodes and to even, talk about them taping them in the first place without mentioning that they would be $1 million spectaculars. However, I think that perhaps they would have a bigger budget, just not a game that's worth $1 million. So they might still have a Corvette Lucky 7 or something like that,
have fun winning that.
Or a Porsche at the end of the Golden Road. They might have, a Viper or something like that, something nice on the show. But in terms of having a game for $1 million or $1 million rule in the showcases, they're probably not going to do that.
Yeah, that's probably
Do you
true.
think that these inflated prizes, do you think that they're going to try to tie them into somehow Survivor, Big Brother, and Amazing Race? Or do you think that these are just going to be two somewhat disjointed elements in the same special?
Well, the fun thing about Survivor and The Amazing Race, and that's probably something that they will do on these specials, is that you can offer trips, especially for Survivor. You can just offer trips to any of the locales that they've done in the last, God, has it been 16 years now? So,
17.
for at least for the Survivor. Wow.
1999 is when Survivor started.
Man. So you can offer, trips to any of those places. And same for The Amazing Race. So they definitely have that advantage there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if on...
March 13th, 2000, by the way, is when it recorded. So not quite 17 years, but...
Okay.
Which one do you think is going to be the best? Survivor, The Big Brother, or The Amazing Race?
Since Survivor, I think, is sort of considered the pinnacle of the CBS reality shows. It has the most history. It has the most legacy. I think it has the most that it can build behind. My gut says Survivor is going to be the best special.
That's my thought, too. I for the same reasons, it's such a phenomenon. I think it's going to be the best.
I feel like The Amazing Race has the potential to provide a good spectacular for price as well. I mean, let's be real. Race game's going to happen. Rat race is going to happen. Just stuff like that. And it has that method where the concept of The Amazing Race is just going to these unknown destinations and by any means possible. I have no idea what they're going to do for the Big Brother show. That is the one that concerns me the most.
Well, I mean, CBS does have a nice segue into it with Julie Chen, who's also on The Talk. So I wonder if they're going to make Julie Chen a particularly big selling point of it.
But is she?
I mean, I think they're going to make all the hosts particularly big selling points. But Big Brother probably will turn out right. I don't know what they can do. I mean, I'm sure if we sit and think about it, we could speculate some things. But I definitely don't think it's going to be the best, but I think it'll be all right.
I will be satisfied as long as the Big Brother The Price is Right episode has something on there worth $19.84. Then I will be happy.
Okay, but I mean...
Come on, fishbowl of cash and temptation.
Yeah.
Right?
Super hard
Well,
temptation.
I think I'm somewhat agree with JJ that, I love Big Brother. I actually watch Big Brother every summer, but I feel like Big Brother and Price, of the three shows, I feel like those are the two that really gel the least because of the way Big Brother carries itself and the way Big Brother likes to market itself. So that one, I just wonder how they're going to fit.
Well, I guess we're just going to have to tune in May and find out.
Or see if anyone else on the fan boards goes to the show.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Before we head out, there's something we need to talk about briefly, and we're talking about the $100,000 pyramid again, because we finally have a little blurb about the show. First of all, they're having the rehearsal show tape on April 14th in New York City at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you have a job, too bad! But I'll read the blurb out. The $100,000 pyramid is a word communication game. Man, how much focus groups did this description get? Where contestants work together with a celebrity partner to guess correct answers based on clues given by their teammates. Each episode consists of 2 main game rounds and 2 winner's circle rounds. In the main game, teams alternate picking from 6 subjects and then try to answer 7 words or phrases related to that subject. Everything's fine so far. In the second main game, there will be 1 mystery 7 subject. The contestant who chooses that subject will have the chance to win a prize if they get all 7 answers correct in 50 seconds. 5-0. The team that scores the most points in the main game advances to the winner's circle. Also of note is the first time a contestant goes to the winner's circle, they're playing for a grand prize of $50,000. If the same contestant makes it to the winner's circle a second time, they'll play for an additional $100,000. Where should we start?
Definitely the. Go ahead.
50 seconds for the Mystery 7? That's a little strange, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, do people really think that not knowing the theme will make the main game that much harder that they have to add 20 seconds?
I just find it really funny, though, that before we were concerned it would be like Donny Osmond's Pyramid, where they gave you 20 seconds for 6 clues. They took off 10 seconds for 1 clue. Now they've added 20 seconds for no more extra clues, just the additional hurdle of there not being a subject. I find it pretty funny.
I'm just kind of laughing through all this because it's like, I that is the one change that I thought they would never actually make, and it just seems so unnecessary that I kind of find it ridiculous, honestly.
Maybe the trip's sponsored and they just want to make sure they give it away. The prize is sponsored.
That's true. Maybe they have to guess the theme in addition to the clues.
That would be fun.
That would actually be really interesting. I never thought about that. If that actually works, that'd be brilliant. If it doesn't work, I might need whiskey.
If that is what they do, then then that means we will have yet another show that is closer to Password than actual $1 Million Password.
Right?
Yes.
But let us know in the comments what you think about the Pyramid blurb, the rules that have been released. Do you think it's faithful enough to the show, or do you think that those slight little changes are enough to tell yourself that you're not going to tune in?
I like how you say, where do we begin, and we only discuss one point.
There's not much to talk about because most of it's the same.
Yeah. I think, well, I don't remember for certain if, in the old days, they used to give you an additional $100,000. I think that's something that's different. And I like that. Usually I thought they would just bump it up to $100,000. Now they're giving you $150,000 if you can get it. So.
Yeah, because the $150,000 pyramid doesn't have quite the same ring to it.
No, but I mean, I was going to say that I think I actually do like the overall increased budget. We were talking a lot about how the suspense really works, and I think the suspense can be heightened if it's consistently either $50,000 or $100,000. I think that adds enough to it without going quite into the Donny mid drama, so I really like it.
Do you think that with all the shows we've had in the past 17 or 18 years that have been $1 million or more for their top prize, like Agreed with over $2 million, do you feel like people are going to see $100,000 Pyramid and be like, that's it? That's dumb. Without recognizing the legacy of the show?
I don't, because I think a lot of people are kind of tired of $1 million shows.
I am.
Like, they like big money shows, but the $1 million show, as it were, kind of fell out of favor after a while.
When no one had any money, including CBS.
Well, look at Celebrity Family Feud. Even though it's a very different game show, it's still very popular, and the money isn't at all the focus. It's the game and the entertainment.
That's true. I mean, look at regular Family Feud. How long has the prize been? $20,000. Sometime.
Began. Yeah.
10 at first, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
That's about wrapping things up. Does anybody have anything they want to add before we end the episode?
Jeopardy, of course, they have a current champion who's only about 3 days into his run, and he's a little notable now in his second episode. Literally on what ended up being the last clue, and it was a daily double. Philip, who is I think he's a teacher from Atlanta, he wagered $19,000 of his $19,600 on the daily double. It seemed like it took forever. He got it right, made the game a runaway, but it was a bold and risky move. And he did sort of the same thing yesterday on the Wednesday episode, where he bid $11,000 of his, again, $11,800, although it was earlier in the round, and he got it right once again to push himself ahead by a lot and make it a runaway. So we'll see if that continues. I've said, elsewhere on Twitter and whatnot, that it reminds me of Alex Jacob from last year, so we'll see where this guy goes.
Well, thanks for stealing the point I was going to talk about. But I do just want to add that I believe $19,000 is the record for the most ever bet in a daily double, and he got it right. So, very good job to Philip there.
Is definitely the record for the most bet and won, because on Reddit it was said that the previous record was 18,000 by some guy named Roger Craig.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Cliff Clavin.
Didn't the high school tourney guy from a couple years ago bid 18,000 as well?
Yeah, Leonard Cooper. He did 18,000 as well, or he had like 18,400 or something like that.
Well, I mean, in the team tournament, you're not playing for the actual money anyway.
He might as well. He's like, I don't care, whatever.
Yeah.
18,000, okay.
Some guy in Normandy, but he just...
It's like Monopoly money at that point.
That's going to wrap things up for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, the contestants not appearing on stage. And we will see you next time. Until then, on behalf of everyone else, this is Torgo. See you then. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, part of the Torgo Entertainment Network. For more episodes of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, check us out on YouTube or online at CNAOS15.net.
This is thanks for tuning in to Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. For more entertainment, please turn into www.torgoentertainment.com/here's the thing.
Humming the Price is Right theme also reminded me of what Colbert did, and now I want to kind of do that with other things. I want to take like the Price is Right theme and put it over the riots at the fights at the Trump Chicago rally.
You're recording this.
It'll make the Trump rally seem so jubilant.
Or just like Big Banana with Trump shouting, "Build that wall."
I just love, because I love what Colbert. I love that he did it with The Lion King. That was hilarious.
Oh, man.
Long live the king. Dun, 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 dun.
Or when they have Bernie Sanders' eventual loss to the primaries and he has to sulk off stage. He's like, this way, Bernie. Bop, 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 ba, da, bop, 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 ba, da, bop, bop.
Put him.
And then he dies.
Well, no. As he sulks off, I'll put in a clip of Bob Barker saying, "Well, you didn't win this time, but we'll just see you at the big wheel." And have the theme going as he walks off the stage.
But Bernie wouldn't even want to spin the big wheel because he thought it was corporate money.
If I get to spin the big wheel, everyone gets to spin the big wheel.
Our country is built on a system where 99% of the double dollars go to 1% of the contestants.
He'll say, "Who do you want to say hi to?" Drew will say, "Who do you want to say hi to?" I want to say hi to all the men, women, black, white that are jailed in our jails. We have too many people in jail. It needs to stop.